talk about Shedeur Sanders and why it's getting spooky out here in these streets for people. It ain't too much you can deflect with this one. Men lie, women lie, but these numbers and these highlights don't.
Well, I think that's really more of an Andrew question, okay? But I think, what was that pick, 146? I think we had the right people involved in the conversation. At the end of the day, that's Andrew Berry's call. Andrew made the call to pick Shedeur.
Jimmy Haslam, the owner of the Cleveland Browns, has finally broken his silence on Shedeur Sanders, and his comments are making waves in a shocking revelation. Haslam shrugged off any involvement in the decision, too. Bring Sanders on board, stating that he wasn't the one who made the call. Instead, he placed the responsibility squarely on the shoulders of Andrew Berry, the Browns' general manager. Haslam even went as far as to say that Shedeur Sanders was a valued player, at 146. But what does this all mean for the future of the Browns and their relationship with Sanders? Jimmy Haslam also emphasized that the Browns have a great process when it comes to signing players. But here's the kicker: if someone had asked him just a day before about going after Shedeur Sanders, he would have said no. So what changed? According to Haslam, earlier that same morning, the decision was made to go for Shedeur, and once again, it was Andrew Berry who pulled the trigger on that call. It raises the question, how much influence does Haslam actually have on these big decisions, and was this all part of the plan from the start? But here's the real question that Haslam raised. Did they actually think Shedeur Sanders was a fifth-round pick? If that's the case, then Cleveland might have one of the worst recruitment systems in the league. It's baffling because Sanders has consistently shown his class, yet the Browns, despite recognizing his talent, drafted him in the 5th round and are treating him like an afterthought. And honestly, the way Haslam's tone came across, it almost seems like he's not too fond of Shedeur, despite his obvious potential. Sanders was undoubtedly a legitimate 1st or 2nd round pick, and it's hard not to wonder if the Browns missed the boat by undervaluing him. What's even more telling is that Jimmy Haslam didn't have a single word of praise for Shedeur. Sanders, instead, he completely shrugged off any suggestion that he was involved in the decision to select him. Almost like he's distancing himself from the potential fallout if Sanders doesn't pan out. It's as though Haslam is trying to avoid any backlash just in case Shedeur doesn't live up to the hype. But the real kicker: no one within the Browns organization seems ready to take ownership of Shedeur Sanders' selection. Except for the player. Himself, Sanders, however, has already shown what he's capable of. He knows his value, and it's clear he's ready to prove that he's more than just a 5th-round pick. From the moment Shedeur Sanders started getting reps, he's been pushing the boundaries with his extraordinary effort. Take day 6 of training camp, for example. Nothing short of spectacular. Shedeur went 7 for 10 in rapid-fire 30-second drills. Not only was he efficient, but he was also flawless in ball security with no interceptions. That level of consistency under pressure, that's leadership, that's elite. Now, let's shift the focus to Dillon Gabriel. He got 16 reps and completed 10 of them. Not bad by any means, but that one interception, that's the crack in the armor. It might look minor on paper, but in a training camp as competitive as it's those fine margins that separate good from great. And in this case, Shedeur Sanders clearly stood tall above the rest. Shedeur Sanders remains optimistic about his growth, embracing every rep, every drill, and every challenge. With the mindset of a true leader, he's not giving in to negativity, not from the media, not from critics, and certainly not from comparisons. His focus is razor-sharp to be the best version of himself and let the work speak louder than the noise. I know the opportunity will come, and whenever it comes, I want to be able to know the ins and outs and know the full everything. So I want to really make too many mistakes when it's my time. In his own words, Shedeur made it crystal clear when his time comes. He doesn't want to make mistakes, and if you've been watching him this week, it's evident that he's living up to that promise. Every decision he makes is intentional. Every throw is calculated. Shedeur is not just out there practicing. He's preparing methodically, relentlessly, and it's not just us noticing. Myles Garrett, one of the biggest names in the game, added fuel to the growing buzz around Sanders. When asked whether Shedeur could live up to the sky-high expectations already surrounding him, Garrett didn't hesitate. Since he's joined the NFL and I've seen him practice, Garrett said, I'm sure he can go toe-to-toe with anybody in. The league, that's a statement that speaks volumes, especially coming from someone who's seen it all on the field. I think he's damn good and he can go toe-to-toe with any since Shedeur Sanders started taking reps in training camp. His consistency has been undeniable. Each day he's built on the previous one, making progress, refining his decision-making, and consistently drawing attention. But it was on day 4 of training that he truly made everyone take notice. On that day, Shedeur dazzled the field with 3 spectacular touchdowns, each highlighting a different aspect of his skill. Set, whether it was threading the needle in tight coverage, delivering a flawless deep throw, or making a quick, smart read under pressure, he executed with both precision and calm. That performance made it clear Shedeur is here to shine. Not just play. Then came day 5, a day when the defense seemed to have the upper hand. They were fast, aggressive, and fully locked in. But even in the face of that intense pressure, Shedeur Sanders stayed completely unfazed. In a practice where the offense struggled to find its rhythm, Shedeur stood tall, finishing with a flawless 100% completion rate. But that wasn't all. He also threw the stunning touchdowns, proving that no matter how tough the conditions, he could still rise to the challenge. One of those touchdowns was nothing short of a masterpiece, with the pocket collapsing and defenders closing in. Shedeur held his ground, kept his eyes downfield, and fired a perfect strike right over the defender's shoulder and into the receiver's hands for an impeccable score. It wasn't just the accuracy, it was the timing, the confidence, and the poise under pressure that left everyone talking, with performances like these backing him up. It's becoming increasingly inevitable that the Browns will have to give Shedeur Sanders the opportunity he's earned. The numbers don't lie, and they've been shouting his name from day 1. Garrett Bush put it best when he said, "Men can lie, women can lie, but these numbers, they don't lie, and those numbers, they're telling a story of consistency, poise, and undeniable talent." It's getting harder for anyone to ignore what Shedeur is bringing to the table. We'll talk about Shedeur Sanders and why it's getting spooky out here in these streets for people. It ain't too much you can deflect with this one. Men lie, women lie. But these numbers and these highlights don't. Shedeur Sanders is undoubtedly fighting against all odds to earn his rightful place on the first-team roster. His performance in training camp has been nothing short of exceptional, constantly proving that he has the skill, poise, and leadership to compete at the highest level, day after day. He's shown up with precision, confidence, and an unshakable focus, making it clear he's ready for more than just a backup role. Yet, despite his undeniable talent, Cleveland's ownership seems intent on minimizing his stature, Jimmy. Haslam's dismissive reference to Shedeur as a 5th-round pick highlights a troubling disconnect between what we're seeing on the field and the perception from the top. Haslam's comments and the lack of ownership support for Sanders raise questions about whether the Browns are fully acknowledging the player they have in front of them. Shedeur is more than just a project. He's a game changer, and it's becoming harder to ignore the potential he has to elevate the franchise as he continues to fight for first-team reps. One thing is clear, Shedeur Sanders is proving that. Sometimes it's not just about where you're drafted, but what you do when you get the chance. What do you think about Jimmy Haslam's comments on Shedeur Sanders? Do you believe he's downplaying Sanders' potential by referring to him as just a 5th-round pick? Should the Browns give him the chance he's clearly earned? Or is there something we're missing from a management perspective? How do you feel about the contrast between Haslam's words and Shedeur's on-field performance? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Let's talk about what this means for Shedeur, the Browns, and their future